A shocking new investigation into ICE shows that thousands of immigrants are being detained in solitary confinement for up to a year or more for reasons as ridiculous and capricious as needing a wheelchair or having a cast. Increasingly, human rights organizations around the world and psychologists view solitary as a form of torture, should be banned outright, and if used, very sparingly at all. In a statement, an agency spokesperson said ICE, quote, is firmly committed to the safety and welfare of all those in its custody. The use of restrictive housing in ICE detention facilities is exceedingly rare, but at times necessary to ensure the safety of staff and individuals in a facility. The seemingly casual use of solitary against immigrants who pose no danger, as documented in the report, is of course a symptom of the underlying cause, which is a president and immigration bureaucracy that seem to view the population they deal with as subhuman. In fact, right now, a Nogales, Arizona Border Patrol agent is being prosecuted for hitting a migrant with his car. And prosecutors are attempting to get his text messages admitted into evidence to show his manifest contempt for immigrants. They include calling immigrants, quote, disgusting, subhuman, unworthy of being kindling for a fire, and another message asking the president to, quote, please let us take the gloves off Trump. Now, perhaps even more shocking than that is the defense's argument in response that the text messages are not relevant because that kind of language is, and I'm quoting here, commonplace throughout the Border Patrol's Tucson sector, that it is part of the agency's culture and therefore says nothing about Mr. Bowen's mindset. And in a grim reminder of what the stakes are for those who are entrusted into the care of that agency, we have news tonight about the sixth migrant child to die after being detained by border authorities. This time, a 10-year-old girl from El Salvador who died back in September, and only now are we learning about her. If you refer to immigrants as an infestation, as the president has, if you promote bigoted stereotypes about their unique depravity and talk about them as a nefarious band of infiltrators, you will promote the conditions for cruelty as surely as effect follows cause. There is a body count to the president's rhetoric now, and unless something changes, it is going to grow.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.